much, Angie. There we go. Continue. Um, Thanks for that lovely introduction. And I really enjoy working with you too. But just so that everybody knows, Angie's the one who did all the hard work. I just guided her in the right direction. But all that that weight loss and feeling so much better was all her doing. So it's awesome. It's lovely to see so many familiar names on here this evening. I've enjoyed and I'm currently enjoying working with a lot of you. So that's fantastic. And to see all the progress, it's amazing. I believe in nothing more than the power of the body to heal itself. We just need to figure out what the root causes are of our issues and figure out not only what we need to add to give the body what it needs to heal, but also what we need to take away. Because it's one thing providing all the nourishment with that the body needs, but it's another thing taking away the obstacles that are causing the destruction in the first place. A topic that's pretty close to my heart is gut-brain health, which I was so excited when Angie asked me to speak about it this evening. We're only really, you know, touching the tip of the iceberg right now when it comes to learning about the connectivity between the gut and the brain. But this isn't a new phenomenon. It's just, come to, the forefront nowadays, but it's actually, Hippocrates was the one who said that all disease begins in the gut, but we're only really now starting to pay heed and try to figure out what he meant. So I really believe in when we have like intestinal permeability or leaky gut, that creates havoc with the rest of our bodies, but in particular with our mental emotional health. And there are more and more studies coming out now showing the link between intestinal permeability and anything from Alzheimer's to IBD to ulcerative colitis to anxiety, metabolic syndrome, candida, Crohn's, so many of our issues. So you've all heard phrases like I've got butterflies in my stomach, or there's a pit in my stomach, or I've gone with my gut. This is actually a real thing. So the gut is actually connected to our brain via the vagus nerve, via the enteric nervous system, and via the gut-brain axis. So they are both connected. So the vagus nerve actually starts in the brain, travels through the neck and the thorax, ending up in the stomach. And that part forms part of our involuntary nervous system. So then you got the enteric nervous system, or the ENS, which is in our gut. And it's like this lining of our gastrointestinal tract from the esophagus through to the rectum. It's actually about 9 meters long. So if it's all unfolded, it could actually cover more than the size of a tennis court, which is pretty amazing that that's all wrapped up in our bodies. But anyway, more importantly, in this lining in the enteric nervous system, we've got over 100 million nerve cells. Not only do we have nerve cells, or these neurons in there, but that's where we also have our beneficial bacteria, our intestinal bacteria. So this is our microbiome. So we have about 100 trillion of these good bacteria living in that thin lining of the enteric nervous system. So these microbiota are really crucial to our overall health. They support our immune system in terms of helping us fight off infection. They help keep inflammation under control, and hence they help control disease. So when you think about it, if this microbiota, or the gut flora, is not like fertile and rich in these healthy bacteria, not only does our physical health start to deteriorate, but our mental emotional health also starts to deteriorate, because remember, it's a two-way system. These neurons or nerve cells in our enteric nervous system actually get sent to the brain. So if we don't have that healthy gut flora in the enteric nervous system, then we've got nothing to fuel the brain. So the thing is, we've always known that anxiety and depression affect our gut. So like if we have an issue where we're stressed about something, or, let's say one of our kids is having an issue at school and they come home feeling sick, or we're getting ready for a big, meeting at work or something, and we feel like sick to the pit of our stomach and we have to rush to the bathroom and all of these kind of things. So that's a real phenomenon. And actually what's happening is that the cortisol that's been released in the body, the stress hormones, so the norepinephrine, go and they start to aggravate what's going on in the gut, right? And what happens is it increases what we call peristalsis, which is the transition of food through the digestive tract. So it speeds all that up. That stress and anxious feeling speeds up that transition, leading to, frequency of bathroom visits, diarrhea, etc. So we've always known that that is a thing. But more and more research is coming out now showing that actually the gut-brain connection works in the opposite direction also. So that's why, like a lot of the time, and I see it all the time with my clients, that if you have someone with something like, IBS or IBD or any like gastric distress like that, more often than not, you'll see some level of anxiety, depression, inability to manage stress going hand in hand with that physical gastric phenomenon. And that's because it is a two-way street. So these neurons, or, in the form of the microbiota, they send, so the microbiota, the gut flora, sends signals to the brain. So that in turn tells us if we don't have that healthy microbiota, we're not sending enough signals to the brain. So by default, anxiety, depression, and inability to manage stress are become issues. And then more seriously than inability to manage stress and maybe occasional anxiety, we have chronic depression, but also we start to get neurodegenerative diseases. So we've got Alzheimer's, we've got Parkinson's, we've got then not only like brain fog and mental, reduced mental clarity, but then we've got more serious issues like autism, for example. So I think we need to stay on top of the research that's coming out, because this is super powerful. And to me, what makes it so powerful is that it can empower us to make changes. We are in control to such a large extent on not only our physical health, but then by default, because of the connection via the gut-brain axis, the vagus nerve, and the ENS, is we're in control of our mental and emotional health. So actually 40% of people with IBS and with bowel issues also have anxiety and depression. So we're finding out now that this microbiome, this this sort of enteric nervous system that takes up so much space in our gut, actually is an endocrine organ, and it controls, therefore, the production of our happy hormones, our serotonin and our dopamine. It also controls our stress hormone, norepinephrine. So we know now that actually 95% of our serotonin, our happy hormone, is actually not produced in the brain, but in the gut, right? So therefore, if we don't have that healthy soil going on in our gut, there's no way we can produce enough serotonin to send to the brain. And so we've got anxiety, depression, etc. Actually, interestingly enough, another function of serotonin is to regulate our digestive process, which I think is super interesting, given the fact that serotonin is so important for mental emotional health. It's also so important for digestive health, which proves this so powerful connection between the gut and the brain. So what the serotonin does is it helps stimulate our hydrochloric acid and our digestive acids, which we need to assimilate food. to digest the food, to extract the nutrients from it, to send it along through to the colon, etc. So if we don't have enough serotonin, because we don't have enough healthy gut flora, we're also not able to digest food properly. Okay, so you may ask, well, why should we really care about all of this? You know, we seem to be fine, we seem to be healthy enough right now, right? Why is it something we need to sit up and pay attention to? I don't mean to scare people when I bring up statistics, but I think it helps tell a powerful story with the state of our healthcare system right now, which we're really just putting out fires. So our obesity rates are at 36% of adults right now, and 17% of our kids. We've got 29 million people in the US are now diabetic. 89 are pre-diabetic. The cost actually associated with diabetes in the US is $245 billion. Okay, it's costing us a small fortune. 14.7 million people have cancer. 39% of people will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. That's 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women. A lot of them are largely preventative through food and lifestyle. Alzheimer's, this is a scary one, and this really highlights the powerful link between the gut and the brain. Right now, we've got 5 million people in the US suffering from Alzheimer's. 1 in 3 will develop either Alzheimer's or dementia in their lifetimes. It's the 6th leading cause of death right now. 50 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder. 1 person has a heart attack every 34 seconds. Depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide, with suicide now at a 40-year high, right? Especially since COVID. Suicide is now at an all-time high. Anxiety disorder, we've got more than 45 million of us suffering from some kind of anxiety disorder. Deaths due to brain disease, okay, and this is also a powerful one when it comes to the gut-brain health, has increased by 66% in our men and 92% in our women. Increased by 66% and 92%. Okay, that is crazy. We've got to do something about this. This one is super scary. Okay, autism. In 1970, 1 in every 10,000 people was autistic. In 1995, that increased from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 500. In 2001, it increased to 1 in 201. Now we're looking at 1 in every 68 people has autism. Okay, something has changed dramatically for this to happen. 1 in every 5 of our children has a mental disorder. Okay, this is something that we really need to look at. Why is this happening to our kiddos? The US actually spends more on healthcare than the next top 10 countries combined. But with regards to longevity and health, we're amongst the last of all industrialized nations. Okay, that's pretty serious. 100,000 people are actually dying from the proper use of medication per year, not the improper use, but from side effects. We're relying so heavily on medication to stick band-aids on these issues, but then we're having to deal with all of these other side effects as a result that are killing us. Okay, so why is this happening and what can we do about it? Okay, so we talked about what's going on with our microbiota, with our gut health, and how this is affecting our mental emotion health, because they're both connected. But let's look at the immune system also, because this is all relevant to this whole mind-body connection and how we can tackle this from root causes. Okay, we need to look at the immune system. 80% of our immune systems actually reside in the gut. Okay, in that nice thin lining of the enteric nervous system, we've got 80% of our immune system, right? So if we're not nourishing those little healthy good bugs, or good gut bugs rather, then how can we have a strong immune system? Okay, it's impossible. So in order to strengthen our immune system, to fight off infection, to fight off illness and disease, we need to nourish the gut flora, right? See how it's all connected? It's pretty amazing, the connection. So, researchers are finding that the healthy gut microflora actually transmits brain signals to, via the vagus nerve, that actually determine the creation of our brain neurons and our behaviors. So they're also proving that inflammation affects how the brain works and how someone thinks, right? Because if our gut is inflamed, we're not producing those nerve cells to send to the brain to produce the brain neurons, and that's also why it's found that people with inflammatory bowel disease, for example, also have elements of depression, because those nerve cells are not being created to send to the brain to produce the brain neurons. Okay, so the studies are also showing that when we repopulate the gut flora with, particularly with the gut flora, lactobacilli and bifidobacterium. So they're two kind of probiotics that you'll see predominantly in probiotic supplements. They're two of the main ones that the body needs: bifidobacterium and lactobacillus. If these studies are showing that if we repopulate the gut with these healthy probiotics, that it helps not only it helps heal not only the physical ailments of inflammatory bowel disease, for example, but also depression. So that's pretty powerful stuff. Like, would we ever have thought before that a probiotic was actually so powerful? It was just something that we took because we were advised to take it, but we never really understood why, right? But it's so incredibly powerful. Okay, so we put something that compromises our immune system is our inflammation. Okay, so what causes this inflammation? Because at the end of the day, the inflammation compromises our intestinal health, our gut flora, which then in turn, as we know, compromises our mental, emotional health. So what happens is, starting with the brain, when we are in like a stressful situation, like let's say we're in a traffic accident, or something happens, we're being chased by a wild animal, or whatever it is, right? Our bodies release cortisol, and we get like the sweaty palms and the heightened heartbeat and all of this kind of stuff. So that happens. That's a natural protective response by the body to give us the energy to deal with the situation, or like in our ancestors' days, to flee from a wild animal if we were being chased, right? So our bodies would release that cortisol in order to give us the energy to flee. So that cortisol increased our level of inflammation, okay? Because that would happen because the primary focus of the body then and there is survival, right? It's the fight or flight mechanism, right? The problem is the way we're living our lives nowadays. We have constant stressors, whether it's, traffic, family, finances, career, relationships, right? We've got all of these stressors, but then throw food into the mix that the body actually doesn't recognize as food. So, sugary, refined, processed foods, high in trans fats, all of these non-foods that we're eating as food. But all of these things now create these constant cortisol releases, this constant stressors. So now we have this constantly elevated level of inflammation. that goes straight to wiping out that nice, healthy flora and increasing the intestinal permeability, so that now not only are we constantly under stress from our external stressors and our foods, but now we've got it going the other way from the gut to the brain, where now we have more anxiety and depression because we're not getting the nourishment and the neurons and everything we need, and the happy hormones and all of that we need from the gut. So now it's a double whammy. So now not only do we have all these stressors, but we have heightened anxiety, depression, and neurodegenerative diseases because the stress has gone to wiping out the gut. So what do we do about this? I think we need to understand, first of all, we know now how it all works, right? The sort of intricate details of how the gut and the brain are connected. We know through the statistics how serious it is that we actually start to do more about it than we're currently doing. But let's look at what we need to fix that's actually happening in the gut that's preventing the production of all the microbiota and healthy and happy hormones that we need. Because we need to look at what damage has been done at the root in order to know how to fix it and how to prevent it from happening again. So when we have these stressful situations, and when we eat food that's non-food, especially something like, let's take gluten, for example. Gluten is the protein in wheat, and gliadin is the part of gluten that's wreaking havoc on our guts. Okay, so for example, when we eat gluten, our body produces a protein called zonulin. So what zonulin does is it relaxes the muscles, the muscular connection in our intestine walls. Remember, we need those intestine walls to be nice and tight, nice and intact, and we need this nice healthy lining in our gut so that we can produce the microbiota, or the healthy gut flora, that we in turn then need to feed the brain. Okay, if we've got holes in that gut like that, nothing is going to stay. So when we eat gluten, for example, it creates the protein called zonulin. Zonulin in turn creates those holes in the gut. So now what happens when we eat foods like that, they get sent out through these holes in the gut. Okay, so they're not supposed to be there. They're not supposed to now be in our blood supply. Your body is a miracle. It will always try to protect you no matter what. So when it sees that gliadin, the gluten floating around in our blood supply, it creates this army, this team of antibodies. And the antibodies' job is to attack the gliadin, right? The problem is that's then what instigates autoimmune diseases, because your body is attacking the gliadin, but the problem is the molecular structure of the gliadin very closely resembles the thyroid, which is why then you've got like Hashimoto's or a thyroid issue. But we can have many autoimmune issues. Rheumatoid arthritis, we got MA, we got Hashimoto's, we got type 1 diabetes, we got lupus. There are tons of them now, and it's the body trying to protect us in the form of the antibodies, the army, from a foreign invader like gluten, or like sugar, or like pasteurized dairy, or some kind of virus like Epstein-Barr or something like that. But anyway, that's where the destruction starts. And if we don't get to the root cause of it, chances are we're going to get another autoimmune disease in 10 years. They are actually the statistics. If we don't get to the root cause of our autoimmune diseases, we get another one within 10 years. Which is why you'll often see people with thyroid issues also having like you know, RA type issues or things like that. Okay, so with that in mind, what do we need to do to reseal those holes in the gut and to then create this lovely protective lining where these healthy gut bugs are going to grow and flourish? First of all, we've got to find ways of crowding out the foods that are causing the destruction. Now, as Angie said in her introduction, I don't believe in restriction, deprivation, calorie counting, portion control, anything like that. That's the bad word. The diet word is the bad word because it sets us up for failure. It's too restrictive. So we need to find ways of crowding out those foods that are causing the damage with foods that are going to replenish the gut flora and hence the mental emotional health also. So those foods that are causing the damage, as we mentioned, are the gluten, over pasteurized dairy, sugar, refined processed foods. They're the biggest culprits. So what do we crowd them out with? Well, we need two main sources of nourishment to recultivate this nice intestinal soil. Okay, if we stop putting the foods in, or let me rephrase that. If we start to crowd out the foods that make these holes in our guts bigger and bigger, the gut will start to bind together, I guess, again, in order to seal up those holes, especially with the help of link, right? The butyric acid in our ACTIVZ link formula is pretty amazing for healing up that gut. So what we do is start to find foods that are going to be rich in what we call prebiotics and probiotics, okay? And this is easier to do than you think. So probiotics are what's going to recultivate that good gut army. So you got your good army and your bad army in your gut. The bad armies survive off the sugar, you know, moderate to high carbs, processed carbs that turn to sugar in the body, you know, things like that. So if we reduce those foods, we start to pull the rug from underneath the bad bacteria, right? They no longer have a source of survival, so they start to die away. So then if at the same time we start recultivating the good guys, then the good army outweighs the bad, and then we have better physical and mental emotional health. So our probiotics are going to be in the form of anything that's been sprouted or fermented. And by the way, this is the way our ancestors used to eat, right? And guess what? They didn't have all the issues we did. You know, they didn't, you know, feel the need to take antidepressants every day. They didn't have the physical chronic disease we have. They didn't have the neurodegenerative diseases that we have. Go figure, right? They ate grains that had been soaked and sprouted. They ate legumes that had been soaked and sprouted. They fermented their vegetables to preserve them, right? For when, you know, for like wintertime when they didn't have any vegetables. So we can do that. We can eat fermented vegetables in the form of, you know, pickles, sauerkraut, kimchi. We can eat, you know, sprouted grains, sprouted legumes. These are all readily available now. We just need to know where to look. And if anyone needs help sourcing these things, just let me know. We can eat these little sprouts, you know, the alfalfa sprouts, the broccoli sprouts. They're in every store now. They have little containers of sprouts, which they're technically alive, right? And so therefore, when we ingest them, they're feeding those good gut bugs. So they're the probiotics, but now we need to feed them, and we feed them with prebiotics. All prebiotics are indigestible fibers that make their way down to our colon undigested, where then they become food for the probiotics. And they're things like, you know, onion and garlic and Jerusalem artichokes and legumes and oatmeal, like things like this. They are these resistant starches that become food for the probiotics. Okay, then what else we need to increase our intake of our anti-inflammatory foods, so mainly our omega-3s. And actually Optimend along with it, it makes a perfect combination because Optimend is a powerful anti-inflammatory, being tetrahydrocurcumin. So we need to increase our omega-3s in the form of like fish and nuts and seeds and like wild game pasteurized, sorry, not pasteurized, I meant to say pasture-raised meats. So when you think about it, this is really how people like our ancestors ate, right? And it wasn't that long ago. They would hunt their meats, right? And they didn't have the issues we have, but we don't hunt our meats. Well, not many people do nowadays. We go to the store and we buy them like in, you know, little packages, and they're from animals that have been raised in a factory with no room to move and all of these issues. And we think it's the same product, but it's actually wildly different because the meat, the wild, free roaming pasture-raised meats naturally have not only low saturated fats and hence lower toxins, because actually toxins live in fat stores, but that's a whole other story. But those toxins also kill off our healthy microbiota. So, but they have like, you know, they're high in anti-inflammatory omega-3 fats. You know, these animals have been eating grass, right? So they have like tons of these omega-3 fats, whereas the factory raised animals have been, you know, fed corn and soy, two of our biggest allergens, right? Guess what our biggest allergens do? They tear our gut apart, increasing our production of zonulin, making these holes happen, making it impossible for our guts to produce what our brains need, right? Not only are they fed corn and soy, but they're fed hormones and antibiotics, which mess with our endocrine system. So it's no wonder we're not producing all the happy hormones that our gut needs to send to the brain. So it's no wonder we're anxious and depressed, right? Because we're just feeding these hormones and antibiotics into our bodies. So not only do we need the prebiotics and the probiotics, but we need good omega-3 fats also. Let me see what else. Oh yes, so I wanted to share a couple of interesting facts that I think are just unbelievable. If we think about how the body is connected like that, how the gut and the brain are connected, one of the functions of our gut bacteria is actually to convert T4 to T3. So if anybody who has a thyroid issue, there are a lot of us nowadays, especially women, because women tend to be under more overall stress in life, trying to manage everything. But we need that gut bacteria to convert T4 to T3 to make our thyroid functional optimally. Normally, 20% of this T4 is converted to T3 in the gastrointestinal tract. Okay, so if we don't have this healthy gut bacteria, the body is not able to undergo that T4, T3 conversion. So what happens then is we have more anxiety and depression. Go figure, right? Because of the connection, and because if we're not transferring the T4 to T3, we're not fueling the brain with what we need to help prevent anxiety and depression. But then also we have physical consequences like weight gain, fatigue, cold hands and feet, all of these things. So that's just like one of many ways that the body really needs this gut flora for everything to function properly. So we need to really watch our dietary intake for to heal this this gut situation, and therefore to fuel the mental emotional health. So we're doing the prebiotics. What they are now, the indigestible fibers. We need the probiotics in the form of sprouted, soaked, fermented foods, you know, kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi, sprouts, all of these things. We need the good fats in the form of omega-3s. We need good proteins, so good quality proteins from you know, wild game, etc. And as few factory raised meats and eggs as possible. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I'm going to have my kombucha. We need to be careful when it comes to our intake of sugar and refined processed carbohydrates, because if we have any kind of inflammation in the body, especially in the gut, and we eat anything that's non-food like that, or that's inflammatory, that's sugar, refined processed carbohydrates, these kind of things, it's like we're throwing gasoline on the fire, creating those holes in our gut. So another thing that we can add that's actually really healing, because it's is collagen. Collagen, what's extracted from the bones of an animal, right, as you probably know. And what that does is like what seals in the gut and creates this nice protection and create the healthy microbiota that then fuel our brains.
Sinead, I think
effective. Pardon?
I think we're having connection issues. I don't know if I'm the only one. If like, okay, Erin, you're having, okay.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Just barely. I think we're having just a little bit of connection issues. So, and your screen is frozen. So I'm just going to jump in really quick and start talking until we can get you back. But if you guys have been listening to Sinead and hear about her talking about like the inflammation. Oh, I think you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry,
Okay.
I lost you there for a second.
Not a problem.
Okay. I just wanted to finish up by saying, so there's so much we can do in terms of food and supplements in order to heal both intestinal as well as mental. There's a lot we can do to manage it from the brain down also. Like some amazing therapies that really help are hypnotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. So any kind of therapy like that that's going to help us reduce the stress from the tool. Sleep is probably number both tackling it from intestinally and also from the mental emotional side. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. It's cutting out a little bit, but we can definitely hear you, so.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And I think we might have just lost you again. So I'll just jump in here again. So I don't know, my takeaways from what Sinead's been talking about is the effects of like inflammation and gut health that it has on your body and on your overall just health. And if you think about the products that ACTIVZ have with Link and Optimend and Arrow and Genomics, I mean, it's the perfect combination of products to help improve your health. There's not a magic pill out there that you can take and just eat whatever you want and you're going to be healthy. You obviously have to watch what you're consuming as well. But to add to improving your health, the ACTIVZ products are phenomenal products to help you jumpstart your well-being and jumpstart your health. With Optimend in reducing the inflammation, with Link in improving the gut health. If you Google epithelial cells and butyric acid, you'll find that butyric acid is one of the main ingredients that is used to create the epithelial cells, and the epithelial cells also help with that protection. And genomics, with its NRF2 activation, we know that genomics is the most powerful NRF2 activator out there on the market, and what it does to your overall health. We're combating weight loss with Arrow, and just the combination of active products and what it can do for your health is just, it's incredible. And it makes me proud to know that that's the kind of company that we're with, is that we're really targeting the areas of your well-being that are going to help in all certain areas, with depression, with gut health, with inflammation, with weight loss. It's really targeting your overall well-being with these products. So Sinead, I think we have you back if there's anything else that you want to jump in and talk about.
So can you hear me? Sorry, you kind of cut out there for a second. Yeah, I mean, I think I know I've said it many times before on these interviews with you guys. I do not normally advocate any particular brands of supplements or anything like that. I have to try everything myself before I will recommend it to a client. I have to be 100% behind it. And I absolutely adore all of the ACTIVZ products for so many reasons. I think Optimend is the best form of anti-inflammatory out there because it gets to the root of the issue, right, with the tetrahydro form of curcumin. Butyric acid is what the body actually produces itself, right, where the bacteria breaks down fiber and produces butyric acid. And that's what the body needs to replenish gut health, to keep that lining of the gut, like the ENS, like we talked about, healthy, because that's where, you know, our microbiota are produced. That's where we send, you know, the neurons to the brain from, etc. So if we can help the body do that in the form of a supplement, then I think that's hugely, hugely powerful. The genomics is, it's like I read somewhere, so the NRF2 activator is like your conductor, and the genes in your body are like the orchestra. So the NRF2 activator in the form of genomics is determining the path that those genes take, whether those bad genes that we may be blessed with, thank you, Mom and Dad, are turned on or off, right? And that's hugely powerful. It's epigenetics, right? We are in control of whether those genes are turned off or turned on. So that's what genomics helps with. I have a lot of clients on Aero now, and they are loving it, not only for weight loss, but also for mental and emotional well-being. They have more energy. They're so much more positive. Their moods are better. But when you think about why that is, look at all those fabulous ingredients in Aero that not only give us energy, that help all the moods and positivity, etc., but it's got all those vitamins and minerals in there that are helping to fix the gut. And we know by now that once the gut is fixed, then we're sending all that fuel to the brain. So we're tackling it from both sides with all the ACTIVZ products. So I think that's pretty powerful. I don't think there are companies that could say the same thing.
Well, very good, Sinead. We so appreciate having you on tonight and talking about gut health and how to fuel our brains, and some changes that we can make within our lifestyle just to improve our overall health. You are absolutely phenomenal. I love working with you. I love that you're part of ACTIVZ, and we really appreciate you being on tonight. I hope you guys took away as much as I did from Sinead. I know there's a few more changes that I could make in my lifestyle just to improve my overall health, and excited to get jump started, but also excited that I have my ACTIVZ products that are helping me along the way. So thank you, Sinead, for joining us tonight. Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask really quick? We have just probably a few minutes.